Hello and welcome. I'm so happy that you're joining me today. My name is Julie and this is stampwithjuliebaum.com. I am going to be doing a card tutorial today. I wanted to share with you the current host code. If while watching today's video you get inspired and excited about some of these products and would like to order them, I would love to have you visit my website, stampwithjuliebaum.com. You can click on the Shop Now button and that will link you straight to my online store. This is the current host code, good through the end of May 2022. The card that I'm making today is actually related to another card tutorial that I did. This was, I believe it was Simply Saturday episode 16, but I am going to link that video right up here for you so that you can go back and watch that one if you missed it. But I am showing you how to make this cute easel card today. These are some of the products we're going to use, so I'm going to talk about those, then we'll jump into the card and its mechanics. So the stamp set and coordinating dies are Nothing's Better Than, and I have a lot of fun using this stamp set and its dies. So we'll be focusing on this. There's a few other things that we're using. There are some rectangle dies that you'll see we're using. These are from the dies called Stitched Rectangles. And then I also have some circles that I have pre-cut. And these are from Layering Circles, a set called Layering Circles. So we're using these two, a scalloped one and a solid one. All right, so those are dies. And I have already pre-cut those to make our time a little bit faster. There's also this die right here, this white shape. And this one comes from a Christmas set. It's called Christmas Season. Now this came out in last year's holiday mini catalog, but is carried over. This is in the current annual catalog of 2022 to 2023. So it's a coordinating die to this stamp set. So I've got lots of parts in here that I've saved from other projects, but this is where that die is from, in case you're looking for that one. All right. So this is kind of fun, the way that it goes together, and I'm super happy to get a chance to stamp this card for you today. All right, the first thing that I'm going to do is take my piece of cardstock. This is one of the new in colors. This is Tahitian Tide. And I have cut this at 8.5 by 5.5, which starts out as a very typical card size. And it is scored down the center at 4.25. So you can see that I have that fold first of all. All right, then I also scored it on that. This is going to be the front piece. So the back piece is now solid. The front piece has an additional score line, and that is in the center of this panel. So again, the width from here to here is 4.25. So this score line is at 2 1/8. So when you've got your piece of cardstock and you're just starting out, you can put it in your scoring tool and score at 4.25 to get your center and at 2 1/8 to get this score line. By having that extra score line, this gives us the ability to have this pop up like an easel card. All right. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is the stamping. So this piece is a piece of basic white cardstock, and it is 5.25 inches square. So I'm going to do all of my stamping to begin with on this piece, and this is going to be a random stamped pattern. So I'm going to use a black ink pad, and I'm going to use the outline stamp of the coffee cup, and just create a pattern all over this piece. I just grabbed this black ink pad. I have a number of them. I want to see if this one is well inked. Yeah, this one's going to be great. Okay, so I'm going to do a random pattern. And when you do stamp random patterns, you want to turn your stamp or turn your paper. so that you are getting your image in all different directions. You'll also notice that I'm stamping off the edge of the cardstock, which actually gives the appearance of the paper that you're stamping on. It makes it look fuller. And by trying to not stay within the edges of the cardstock, it is a pleasing look. So you'll notice that I go stamping off the edges all around. All right, so continuing to turn my stamp and or the paper. And again, I am getting just my random print of coffee cups. I can see now that I'm getting going, I do have a darker area in my ink pad. So I'm going to try to walk it around a little bit more and get an even inking from my black. But in the meantime, we aren't going to worry about it. All right, so I've got a lot going this way. Let me turn this guy over. Let's put one upside down there. Let's fill in this corner. Looks like that should do it. And maybe one just on the edge here. I kind of think I need one on the very edge up here too. Sometimes you get to this point and you're like, too much. So you do have to be a little bit careful. Yeah, it just needed a little ink in that corner. All right, so this has my random stamping all over it. Now, while I've got my cup stamp with black ink, I am going to go ahead and stamp a cup on my white circle that was pre-die cut. Right in the center of that. I can do better. I'm going to flip that over. It's a little bit tricky when I'm not trying to lean in and get in your way, but try to eyeball this. All right, we're going to go with this one. All right. Then I also am going to, no, we'll come back. This is going to be the piece for the inside, an inside panel on the card. It is 5 1/4 by 2.5 inches. We'll come back and do some stamping on this one in a little bit. All right, so let's add some color to this. The 3 colors that I'm going to use to fill in my coffee cups are Tahitian Tide, Parakeet Party, and Sweet Sorbet. Each of those are new in colors. So I have the stamp that is the inside or the filler for my cup, and I'm going to start with Tahitian Tide and start to fill in some of these cups. Also in a random fashion. So a blue one here and there. Keeping in mind that I've got 2 other colors to come in and fill with. And I want to do some of these outside on the edge ones. That one wasn't pretty. Okay, we're going to leave that one for the sake of getting the card done. All right, I've got my 2 other colors here. Let's come in here. All right, sometimes you get it right on the first time. Sometimes you have to go back and add some more of your first color. But let's just proceed. Let's move on to Parakeet Party. I do know one thing that I have not done during this tutorial, which is not typical of me, and that is to grab my little Stampin' Pierce mat. These are photopolymer stamps. And sometimes when you are not getting the impression that you would like, it's because you need a little bit of give underneath your cardstock. a photopolymer stamp doesn't have a little cushion built in like the stamps that are made out of red rubber. So sometimes you need that little cushion underneath. So I am going to go ahead and proceed now that my Stampin' Pierce mat is in place. All right, here we go. Let's add some green. Can't quite see what I'm doing, but that's okay. And that means yours will turn out even better than mine. All right, so we're going to leave that one for red, that one for red. We'll do this one red, so this one needs to be green. Reds, red, red. I think this one needs to be green also, even though it's close to that other one. And then we're going to have red over there. All right, so I'm kind of talking myself through where my colors are going. Got red, red. Let's do green here and move on. Okay, now we're going to use our Sweet Sorbet, which is a very pretty red. I'm finding that it's kind of close to Poppy Parade, but it still has its own quality of redness. All right, so now I'm going to fill in the remaining cups, and we'll see if I have to add any blue ones at the end just to make it look like it's well-rounded. Okay, we are just about there. Nope, I think we'll just finish this one with red and call it good. All right, so we have our random print now on this piece. Oh, I've got that little corner I stamped. Let's add a smidge right there. Ooh, that was quite perfect. Okay, I got lucky there. All right, now what's going to happen is this piece is going to get cut up into 3 pieces. So I will grab my trimmer, give myself a little wiggle room here. We're going to cut this piece. Again, it started out at 5 1/4 inches square. We're going to cut at 2 inches. And again, now on this piece that's left over, cut it at 2 inches. So it's nice and easy to remember. And the piece that's left over, which is 1 1/4 inches, is exactly what we need for the inside of our card. So that is a great trick. Okay, let me show you. Oh, sorry, I put that away and it totally bumped the camera. All right, so let's attach these pieces that we just cut apart. So these are each going to go on the front like so. This is also a good time. I'll show you what I'm going to do. If you did end up with an image that is maybe not your favorite, you can strategically place your paper like so, because my focal point is going to cover the middle of this. So remember this little boo-boo that I made when I was filling in the blue? No one's ever going to know because we're actually going to cover it up. So it's great. When you're stamping that first piece, just kind of keep that in mind, that if there's 1 or 2 cups that aren't great, it's all right, because you can probably camouflage the look once you get down to attaching your papers. So I'm going to take my liquid glue, because gosh, by that point, when you're almost done stamping that whole piece, if you make a mistake, that's kind of a lot to go back and redo. All right, so I'm going to attach this to the front, and I'm just eyeballing my margins kind of between the 2 sides, which are a smidge, just a bit bigger than the top and this bottom edge by the fold are going to be. All right, so we have that one in place, and then again, I'm going to strategically place this one with the not so great stamped image right there, and it's going to get covered up. Okay, So now we have a really pleasant print on the front of the card, bright, happy, really nice. Now, of course, you can do the same card design in whatever stamps and colors you have or are in the mood to use. In fact, this first card, this card design, when I first made it, was not done with the Nothing's Better Than. It was an entirely different stamp set, and I transitioned that idea into the card that you're seeing today. All right, this one's going to go on the inside. I think I'll flip it. The direction of the cups looks a little bit better that way. So we can go ahead and add that one as well. So that's going on the inside at the very bottom, but not flush with the edge of the card. Leave a tiny little border. So you've got a little peek of the Tahitian tied still at the bottom there. And I'm going to give this a good press. All right, we are working through this just fine. The next thing I'm going to do is finish this little part of, this is going to be on the inside part of the easel. This piece was cut out of Parakeet Party, so that's our green. And this one, I think I'd like a red cup on this card. So I am going to go ahead and fill this one in with my Sweet Sorbet. All right, and it can get attached. Remember, that was the first one that I tried that I thought that was not as good. And this can get attached to my green circle. It's just got a tiny, tiny little edge, almost like a little green ruffle all around this white circle. And again, as I mentioned, those are from layering circles. I didn't want to take all the time to actually do the die cutting here during the tutorial, but if you are very new to crafting and stamping and you do not know how I got those die cuts, just leave a little comment below and I will be sure and get back to you. I will be putting up a tutorial just on die cutting alone, so I'll be sure and let you know when that is up as well. All right, so we've got this piece. Let's go ahead and finish our focal point for the front, and then we'll work on the inside. All right, here are my rectangles from the Stitched Rectangles dies, and I'm simply going to attach the red, or the Sweet Sorbet. I think that's what I called it earlier, right? Sweet Sorbet. I'm going to attach it to the little bit larger rectangle in Tahitian Tide, which had some little pieces of fuzz or cardstock scraps stuck to it. So that's cleaned off now. Okay, so now we've got this layered. Let's take the white tag that was pre-cut and do our stamping on it. I'm going to use the stamp from the same set that says "A Day Without." So with all of the different parts of the stamp set, you can create this to say a number of different things. So we're going to use "A Day Without" stamped at the top of this tag. And then we're going to use the word coffee, and instead of using a stamp, this was die cut. All right, here is the die. And so I ran this through my machine with Tahitian Tide cardstock and got this die cut. The liquid glue would be just fine if I was going to use it. In fact, let me just show you. If I was going to use my liquid glue, I would want to make sure that it's well down into the tip before I start doing any squeezing. And then I would leave little tiny dots, like the tiniest dots that you can imagine on the back of this. This is going well, so I'm going to continue, and then I'll just talk you through another option. All right, so these little white glue dots, again, I'm not really putting any pressure on my bottle at all. It's pretty much just tipping out, and I'm dotting my letters, okay? Let me put a little bit on those two F's. All right, so that came out just like I wanted to. If you have trouble controlling the flow and you're not able to get those tiny dots, then an excellent option is our fine tip glue pen. So this opens by twisting the white cap and lifting. And there's actually a little needle here in the cap so that every time you put this glue away, the needle goes down into the tip of the glue, keeping it from clogging. But you have a much more control over this tiny, tiny glue opening. So that works well for a lot of people. All right, I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my white tag. And by using those tiny little glue dots, you're not going to have any squish out. So this is actually quite clean. All right, there is the cutest little stamp in this set. And it's probably a star or a star burst. I tend to call it a twinkle because it just adds that little sparkle or twinkle right where you need it. So we're going to add 3 twinkles on each side of the words. I don't want them really to be symmetrical, so they're both still kind of in a triangle, but not really symmetrical. Okay, so there's our little piece, and this is going to get attached to this. I'm going to use a couple of dimensionals. You could also just glue it flat. So I'll put 3 dimensionals on the back of my white tag and get this attached to this other piece. All right, now our main focal point for the front of the card is really coming together. Okay, this piece is going to go on the front of the card like so. And when I'm ready to do this, I will line it up so that it is centered on the whole front of the card. However, we don't want it attached to the card in such a way that this little mechanism is won't happen, is impaired, is so I want to make sure that I attach adhesive only to the bottom of this set of rectangles, this focal point, and don't put any adhesive at the top, okay? I don't want to glue it to this panel at all. Now I have all kinds of words going through my head. Impede, impair. If I was doing a live right now, I know you guys would help me out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put tear and tape on here, because I do want it quite strong, because it's the mechanics of how the card opens, and in a moment you'll see how it sits up like an easel. I don't want any chance of this piece pulling off of the front of my card. So I have 2 long strips of tear and tape. Let's release the backing of that and attach it to the front of the card. And again, I'm going to eyeball centering it. So I'm looking at these 2 sides as well as the top and the bottom. I'm going to lay that down. Before I squeeze it and squish it down really tight, I'm going to double check that I haven't gotten any adhesive accidentally where I don't want it, and we're fine. There's no adhesive there. So now I can press that down and make sure that it is stuck well. All right, the last thing we need to do is finish the inside of the card. So for this, I have that last piece of basic white cardstock, which is 5 1/4 by 2 1/2. And on it, I'm going to stamp the words that finish out the card. So this says, is like, just kidding, I have no idea. So the whole card will read, a day without coffee is like, just kidding, I have no idea. So that's going to go at the top center of my inside panel. And because we like that twinkle so much, let's come back in with a few of those. I will choose to do a few green ones. And then I'm going to do a few blue ones as well. So back to Tahitian Tide. Now this card I have done with a different color scheme, and I'm sure that you have a fun color scheme in mind. So it's great to take the idea, make it yours, change up the colors, change up the stamp set. All right, let's attach this to the inside, and then we'll be on our final step. I don't know where you're watching from. I would love to know that if you'd like to leave me a comment and tell me where you're watching from today. But I am stamping from Southern California, where I live. And it has been typical spring. So typical spring or May here is kind of a roller coaster of weather. We have had 85. Oh, this is not the right size paper. Hold on, I'm going to trim it. That's funny. It needs to be 5 1/4 across, and it is not. All right, so I'm still here. I am trimming quickly because I already have glue on this. So I took a teeny bit off of each side so that it would still, so that my words would still be centered. Well, that was a surprise. So as I was saying, we've had a roller coaster of weather. We've had high 80s. We've had it drop back down into the low 70s, then up into the high 70s, then 91. So we are having a roller coaster. Today, tomorrow, and Friday are a teeny bit cooler, which for us is high 70s, low 80s. And it's very possible that wherever you're watching from, it's still really, really cold. All right, I've got a little glue on me from that little predicament. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is create the element that needs to go right here that will allow our easel card to pop up. Let me show you a different angle so you can see what this is going to look like. Okay, so this is where our circle comes in. It's already prepared. And I'm just going to put, one would probably be enough, but I'm going to go ahead and use 2 dimensionals just for extra security on the back of my little spot here. Whatever little element that you add here, because this could be, depending on your card and your design, this could be words, it could be a different image, it could be a rectangle, whatever it is, you just need to pop it up on a dimensional so that it will help the mechanics of the card. Let me show you. All right, pretty much centered, that looks good. So that when this piece is popped up, it needs a little lip to stand up against. So if this piece is flat, then this piece is not as likely to stay put. All right, so just make sure that you always pop that one up. And now again, I can show you the angle of what that's going to look like sitting on a desktop or a tabletop. Super cute. You still have plenty of room here to put a little message. Of course, if you needed extra space, you could always add a panel on the back. But for today, that is our easel card with Nothing's Better Than as the featured stamp set and dies. And I thank you so much for watching. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I invite you to subscribe so that you don't miss any of my card tutorials or any of my other videos. And I do thank you for watching. I'll bring this host code in one more time in case you're interested in visiting my website and placing an order for product. And here's the host code. Thank you, and I will see you soon. Bye.